Good evening, one and all. I am Shriyal Sethumadhavan, the feature editor of Construction World. I welcome you all to this exclusive Construction World virtual panel discussion on Constructible BIM, the future is connected construction. Is your construction site unable to give you an accurate budget from the start till its completion? Have you been looking out for a solution to the challenge of wastage on site? Considering remote working conditions and the pandemic situation, can building information modeling be the way forward? And can BIM be recognized just beyond or even beyond design? Can it become a practice by choice and not just be another option? If these are your questions, then this webinar is for you. Presented by Tekla, a Trimble solution, this webinar is organized by First Construction Council and ASAP Info Global Group under the Construction World webinar series. I have all the panelists, they've already joined me in live. But before we go to the panelists to understand the challenges and arrive at solutions and successes with using BIM, here is a brief introduction to the organizers. Is the slide visible to everybody? Perfect. So introducing you to First Construction Council and the Board of Governors with us on First Construction Council. We have Mr. Pradeep Singh from IDFC Projects, Architect Hafiz Contractor, Mr. D.K. Sen, Mr. Sandeep Singh, Mr. Subodh Dikshit, Mr. Sumit Banerjee, Mr. Sanjay State, all the big wigs from the industry, they are with us on board. About Construction World, in the running for over 22 years, always committed to delivering the most authentic, trusted, up-to-date and timely information about the construction business and distributed across 800 cities in India and overseas. These are the various other publications along with Construction World from the house of ASAP Info Global Group. I'm sure most of you would already be, subscribers to many of these magazines that we've been rolling out. And CW Gold, it's live now. It's a new, addition to our offerings. What is CW Gold? It's weekly updates that we reach out to you in terms of everything that's happening in the construction sector, including infrastructure, cement sector, project reporter, and financial analysis. So do subscribe to CW Gold to keep yourself updated on a weekly basis. It's simple. You need to log on to constructionworld.in and access the CW Gold tab in there. And with that, I am delighted to introduce and welcome you to our panelists who have joined us. Please welcome Mr. Cyrus Pithawala, Director Engineering, Hiranandani Construction. Mr. Girish Dravid, Managing Director, Sterling Engineering Consultancy Services. Mr. Harsh Parikh, Regional Sales Director, India and SARC Trimble Solutions, India. Mr. Mahesh Mudda, Managing Director and CEO, New Consolidated Construction Company. And Architect Sachin Bhatt, Director, Edifice Consultants. Thank you for joining us on the panel. So, and all our attendees who have joined us today, thank you for joining in. We would like to keep this as interactive as possible among the panelists as well as the attendees. We've seen the last few months in the kind of scenario that we all have been in. There have been a lot of ups and downs in the real estate sector. Even in the residential segment has been one of the first to take off in terms of project launches, and this is being followed by some other segments. But before we get started, I would want to know from all our attendees that in terms of project offtake, by when do you see the real estate sector to bounce back? So it's simple. I'm just going to be launching a poll right away. And I urge you all to vote to my poll. So all the attendees, please let us know that in terms of project offtake, by when do you expect the real estate sector to bounce back? Well, we have 60%. Okay, it's coming to 50. So we see maximum saying a year. That's interesting. There's very less that is going to 2 years. So that's an optimistic sign for us. It's around 23-24% to 6 months. Okay, more than 60% or close to 60% is saying year. I'm closing this poll. That's the result for you. Great. So I think that's an optimistic note for us to begin with. And when we say that a majority of us are looking at 1 year for the real estate sector to take off, the kind of topic we're going to be discussing today, BIM technology, becomes crucial, and we need to get prepared for that. So I would now request Mr. Harsh Pari to introduce us to Constructible BIM and the need for connected construction.
Thank you, Shreya. Would you mind giving me the controls so I can share my screen? Thank you. Yes. Please confirm if it is visible to everyone.
Yes,
everyone. Thank you. It's somehow not visible to me. Okay.
Oh, we can see it is the opening slide.
That's fine, I think it is. So thank you, Cheryl, for the fantastic opening, and I'm privileged to be here with all the eminent panelists, and I'm sure there are many more knowledgeable people from the industry in our audience. Really feel blessed to be here today. So the topic you're talking about, constructible BIM. I want to basically extend this to a bigger horizon, and let's talk about connected construction. Construction is a big space, and we talk about heavy civil industry or real estate or industrial or health sector or whatever. Construction is a big thing, and there are multiple stakeholders. So the theme which Trimble as an organization tries to drive is always deliver with confidence, and we always talk about connected data and a connected construction. I think in few slides going forward, probably I'll be able to deliberate more upon it. But here you see where we are going towards with this connectivity or connected construction. The first and foremost is about the visibility to all the key stakeholders. With this common virtual approach of having like a single source of truth, we want to have the complete visibility to all the key stakeholders. The data or the construction data which drives the field work should be available to the last mile connectivity. And when I say last mile connectivity, to the last person on the site who is actually overseeing and executing the work. It should not be limiting only to the office. Very, very important in the overall process is about the transparency throughout the phases of the construction, right from the concept to planning to detailed design, and probably concept commissioning. That's the whole idea. And when we do all of this, it is not only about being software as a technology to be used. Construction is one place where the software, hardware, services, people, and multiple systems needs to be integrated. So there are a lot of machines we all see works on our site. So how do we basically integrate this data with the realistic operations with all the machines on the site? So it's about integrating the single source of truth, the virtual digital model with every aspect of the project and every phase of the project with every stakeholder in the project. That's the essence of how do we deliver the entire project with confidence. So let's understand what's this philosophy about constructible. BIM, I'm sure, I think everybody would have heard in the last 10 to 15 years, it has become a buzzword. However, I see there is still a gap in terms of the usability of BIM, and still there are a lot of believers that they have not been able to get the real value of BIM. So that is where we talk about one more element of BIM and add to it called constructible BIM. It means the virtual BIM model, which has every element of design and construction and built to it, should be able to pass on the data, as I mentioned in my previous slide, to the last mile connectivity. It means to the last person. And how do we integrate? So Trimble has basically these three pillars around which the technology is going to revolve. It's constructible. It means, in a very simple language, we call it as built. That as built virtual model should be connected, should be able to connect various phases of the project and various stakeholders in the project, irrespective of what is the nature of the job. And the most important part in this constructible approach, that where is the content which is available. So unless we have the content available to build that entire model in its realistic form, how is the content enabled? So we as a technology provider needs to have all means and ways available by which this content can be made available to the industry, whatever the industry follows. So these are the three core pillars around which the technology is going to move. And then there are several elements which talks about machine learning, which talks about artificial intelligence, talks about deep learning, reusability of data. All of those are the different elements which can come into it. But these are the core pillars which we talk about constructible BIM. It's not about just design phase of it. And what it does in connected construction, which I mentioned a while ago, that connecting various stakeholders, be it an owner or the general contractors, subcontractor, with the consulting team. So there are two clear ways to look at the construction space, the white collar and the blue collar workforce. So how do we basically connect these white collar workforce to the blue collar workforce? So like in the field and in the office, that connectivity needs to be there. So whatever has been conceptualized and designed, how easily it is basically passing through in the various field activities, getting monitored, getting captured and reported back, so the overall progress of the project gets captured, and then the informed actions and decisions can be taken to ensure that it is completed within the given timelines. I did not speak about challenges. I'm sure there are many other people who would have spoken in past, and we have panelists, my co-panelists, who will be able to articulate. So those challenges I'm not highlighting or articulating now, but I think one of the biggest time and cost overrun is everybody talks about today. And if we are able to connect these two activities in the office and then the field, we'll be able to see the real productivity by utilizing technology in this digital world. So let's understand what is constructible in a very, very simplistic form. What do we call constructible? So if you see the picture, when I create a BIM model, when I say it's a constructible BIM model, means every element which is going to happen on site is available inside that virtual model. I'm not missing anything. It is not just a surface 3D model. Every element is built inside it. So whether it is a structural element, civil element, or MEP element, whatever it is, but it has to be full in all respect. And that is what the constructible picture brings in. Right now, there is a terminology called LOD, the level of development or level of detail. Different people use differently. It's level 250, 300, that's the maximum people use. But if you really want to bring the value of BIM towards the construction side or field side of these models, then the elements needs to be available of construction level, not at the design level. And that's precisely we call constructible BIM. So what it is, you can see, if you see, this is what the outcome everybody wants at the field from the model. These outcomes are directly derived, which we can say good for construction drawings. And if you see, it is coming directly from the model. These are the outputs, and this is how virtual model today can be generated. So we saw the BIM model coming out 10 years ago, and how the technology has revolved around and what level of richness in the content has come is really phenomenal. So We don't need to really wait to complete the whole model and then deliver it. Like tomorrow, if we want to deliver some drawing, the tools and the technology enables us today to quickly deliver these elements. That's precisely what I refer as constructible BIM. Let's look at the second element. I talked about constructible, then I said content enabled. Now, how do I build this virtual model in the complete respect? So the content has to be there. So Trimble is committed, and I'm sure a lot of people who are using our software use SketchUp to a large extent. And if somebody is using SketchUp, there's got more than 35 million users worldwide. I'm not too sure how many projects have been finished using that at the conceptual stage, but we have something called 3D warehouse and extension warehouse. At the conceptual stage, if you need the content, it is available to be downloaded. If you go for the detailed design stage, then the softwares like Tekla, or maybe there are MEP softwares, they can be our softwares, or they can be our competition software, but ultimately we support the industry by providing the content. So the SketchUp primarily, I can refer to anything but architects. Let's say if you're doing a conceptual design, 3D design and visualization, probably and using SketchUp, content is enormous. Tekla for anything to do with the detailed design and engineering for the structural people, and then MEP folks can actually start utilizing this rich content from our MEP libraries. So if you see, this is the quick snapshot. The overall, if you see, there are 31 million, more than 31 million catalog items are available within Trimble, I'd say cloud services. And if any of you are using some of these technologies, you'll be able to download those contents online. It has got more than 5,000 plus building product manufacturers contents available. So if somebody is using, let us say, Tata's product on the construction, I'm sure you would find the catalogs to get it downloaded. And probably more than 90,000 plus engineers and contractors are availing and using these things worldwide. Maybe then we have a lot of partners, applications which basically works on top of it. So it's a huge and a very rich library to be used. So let me give you an example. And I think MEP is very, very important to many aspects. So I just chose this. So look at, these are some of the contents which are available. If I just click here, and I think it might take 15 seconds. You go here and probably I can take you through this page. You see, this is how it comes as a content library. So if you see here, this content talks about, these are the MEP contents, BIM files. And here you say category, you talk about buildings, electrical, heating, cooling, load, everything. Who are the manufacturers? You can actually go for manufacturers. And then what is the file type you want to download? So you want to use a Revit file, AutoCAD file, or maybe a IFC file. Anything you need, you just need to basically select this content, and this is a huge content library. You can choose any of the items under each of these categories, and probably if you just go to mechanical, just say apply, it'll find all the mechanical catalogs here. And then this can be directly imported to any of the standard BIM software. BIM is a process, but BIM supported tools, these can be applied. So this was a quick preview on this. And then last element is connected. So we have the cloud applications, which basically accumulates all these informations and pushes on cloud, so you can use it on desktop, tablet, or mobile, using the cloud computing power of each of these devices. And I think this is what we say, every element at every phase of the project will be connected. Something very useful is about mixed reality. So we basically mix physical and digital environment together, so you can superimpose your digital models onto the actual site by wearing a hard hat or maybe a Microsoft HoloLens. Trimble is the first one to partner with Microsoft to come up this device. So this is a mini computer fitted in a hard hat. You are on site. Your entire BIM model can be transferred into this device, and you can transpose your entire model actually onto the site. So this is what we call mixed reality. It's all about innovation and how to use your cloud computing and how technology is enabling the collaboration and review. So it is not about that you just do virtual review or clash detection in computers. In fact, you can actually take all these models on the site and run these clash detections and generate the reports. I don't want to run this video on the account of time, but this is the live footage somebody has done, and maybe let me just quickly do that. This shows how you are transposing your digital model on the site. This was a small illustration of how like constructible, content enabled, and connected. So this is all about your on-site, but whatever your digital design is happening on site, they are directly connected on this mini device, hard hat and a HoloLens, and you're actually transposing this model on site. This is awesome in terms of technology. So we must have heard about AR, VR. This is what we call the mixed reality, and it's really upcoming and going to be the future of construction collaboration. And how do we basically support these life cycles, workflows, and reporting? So whatever we are doing, how do we track the overall progress of the project? And that's where like these kind of dashboards are really like cool reporting basically comes out from these tools. Does all your drawing management, manages your submittals, minutes of meetings, RFI management, everything what is needed, and helps us to communicate faster without really waiting. So everything is in the next tab button, and you have the project cost, flow of your cash, how your project is progressing. All of that can be reported, and this is actually following not just accumulation of the data, it has the entire life cycle. So when you say my drawing is approved, good for construction, it is all linked from one to the final stages. So that's what it is now. How about the innovation? We continue to be a part of innovating technologies, and I'm sure all of you would have seen this bio-inspired robot we call Spot Robot. Happy to mention once again, though it is in the news everywhere, Trimble is partnered with Boston Dynamics to deliver this technology in a realistic manner for the construction operations. You see, this is like a joint program from Boston Dynamics and Trimble's and how it works. So our hardware devices are all equipped on this Spot robot for capturing the as-built information, tracking the project. So you can see it scans your as-built, helps in production control, doing the quality control by quickly doing the entire scan, automatic registry of scan, like the construction is done, whether it is with the symmetry or there are any deformation or anything. Very, very important when we talk scan to BIM. So how it is moving from one stage to a very, very mobile stage and utilizing the latest technologies. So it's a great story with the customer called Hansel Phelps, and they really admire that how quickly they have been able to assess their site conditions on daily basis, monitor the progress, and quickly resolve the issues which are coming on their way. Some of the testimonials which they really talk about, it is the
Mr.
amalgamation of
Parikh,
the
I'm sorry to
technologies.
interrupt, but you have to just rush through a bit.
Yeah, I think this is. I'm just trying to. So what I'm saying
Okay.
it is not only about one side of the technology. It is all about innovating for the future and delivering best for the construction segment. So with that, I only leave you with this thought that deliver with confidence. The technology leaders and providers are working all towards this direction. So we serve and cater to the industry with best of the things available. Thank you very much, Real. If I overshooted my time.
Thank you, Mr. Parikh. I must say a very interesting and insightful presentation, and I would love. In fact, I'm sure we all would have loved to, see more of it. It's just we're a little time bound, and hence I had to interrupt. But thank you so much, Mr. Parikh, for that insight into constructed connect and content that you just took us through. Getting into our discussion. We see that, as Mr. Parikh mentioned, there are challenges that are being spoken about. And one major challenge that is seen is that everybody works in silos. Different stakeholders use different platforms, and this leads to challenges in, project management and collaboration. There is lack of data to interoperate. So could BIM be the ideal solution here? So now I'll move on to all our panelists because we can get some insights over there. I would begin with Mr. Pitawala. Mr. Pitawala, in the Indian real estate scenario, what are the key apprehensions and challenges about BIM that have been coming in the way of its adoption?
See, there are no apprehensions as such, but the only thing is the training is required for BIM in a bigger way. And as normally informed to me, and it is all across India, the architects and the RCC consultants also will have to properly support. In the sense that if we want to do it also, the architects are saying we are not used to BIM, or the RCC consultants says we are not used to BIM, and as a result this issue comes. But it is not so with all the architects and all the RCC consultants, but most of them. So that is one big point. Second one is the cost. How can we deter this cost to a minimum? And the third thing, what I feel is, whether this BIM technology can be used for residential buildings also. See, we are looking always at commercial buildings where there are a lot of MEP works. As far as residential buildings are concerned, the amount of matter is very less. So whether that can be used also effectively. I am sure BIM will be able to give us some residential solution also. I think I have covered the 3 points. And if you say one more, see, we will also like to know whether the finishing items, like tiling, plaster, then flooring, all this also is covered by BIM. So sometimes some softwares are they said we can do this, we cannot do this. So I'm not sure about it because I have not gone through the full process. Of course, I've got many presentations done, but not at present used the same. Let me be very frank. Thank you.
Mr. Parikh, would you want to, respond to that what all does BIM cover? Can it be adopted in residential? And also specific to the point on, training that Mr. Pitawala mentioned, does Trimble offer any training to project stakeholders, as this is important to ensure optimum usage?
To answer Mr. Pitawala, I think first and foremost, it's absolutely possible. Everything what you're asking for. I think I mentioned one aspect in my presentation called content. A lot of time, like we don't want to do something because we always struggle to find the content availability. That if I want to do tiling, brick, whether it is there or not, do I need to customize? So I would say we are working very hard with our development team, with our content teams, that as much content as possible can be made available without any customization need. Or so I told you 31 million catalogs. It's not a small thing. So it can be done. Now, second question to what Shreyal, you were asking about trainings. Of course, there are different levels of training. Can be very basic software-oriented training to the project-specific and project-oriented training, where we give the experience that how the projects can be delivered, not just by training you on software. So at least at Trimble, I can say we do that.
I think Mr. Pitawala also, mentioned the experience of coordination between stakeholders, about architects, about structural engineers. I think this is an interesting part where I would want to, kind of gauge the mix of attendees and everyone who's watching and viewing us today. So how do I do that? Poll is my way to everything. I'm just launching a poll. For all our attendees, just to understand that what is your organization's, DNA? Are you from an architectural firm? How many of you from engineering consultants? How many building contractors with us? How many builders, owners, operators? Okay, I see that we equally have a lot of architects, engineering consultants, builders have joined us, also building contractors. That's interesting. Totally. I think the whole idea of the subject that we are addressing today is, how it can bring all stakeholders together on a platform. Also, Mr. Pitawala did mention, cost as one aspect. And that would take me next to Mr. Mudda, that how would you view BIM as an expenditure or an investment?
Thank you, Shreyal. If you ask me, because let me begin with, I always keep saying that change is the name of the game. I mean, we have got to keep adopting what is happening all over the world and keep moving. Otherwise, we'll be left behind. And in this case, if you ask me, this is certainly not expenditure. This is certainly an investment. I would take it. And we need to, understand the dynamics of this, because why this tool we need, and because how it is going to help. So it is not going to be because adding expenditure to our project. On the contrary, we are talking about using this tool to reduce the time. Time is money. Second, reduce all this kind of coordination issues, which normally, because any project, if you take it, it's like organized orchestra, and one thing goes off, the whole your song goes off. So because each and every player, including the developer, including the architect, the structural consultants, and anybody and everybody, because this tool, because my understanding, yes, we are in the process of maybe because we're very close to implementing one of the projects, which we have been working on to it. And I spent last, I think, more than a year understanding this BIM and Revit, and I had a number of presentations, and come to the conclusion, which I have in-house discussed with our own team, as well as I've been advocating to most of our clients with whom we are working to make them understand the importance of this. I mean, because we are not working as a contractor, because we have been into this business for 75 years. We could survive only because being a partnering with the client. If I'm working as a contractor, I'll be just worrying about my interests, looking after my interests. Here we always say, we know this business, so we want to be partner with you and add value to your project, because they don't understand anything of the project or construction. So we are trying to add value to saying that, because why don't we fix up the budget? Why don't you fix up all the clarity of your project? And things have changed so drastically, Shreyal. I mean, because all the panelists will agree with me, and because people who are all listeners, they know, when we used to talk of the A project of 1 lakh square feet, 50,000 square feet, 2 lakh square feet, today I think most of our projects we're talking in million square feet, 1 million, 2 million, 1.5 million, and size of this time is not really gone because 5 times. Time has come down by 5 times. So because in such a short span, if you have to do the project successfully, because what you need is the technology. Because as a contractor, because we used to use very conventional method, because initially when we were working, we have changed our methods to, because best of the frameworks of this world, maybe German framework, maybe Spanish framework, maybe Malaysian framework. Why we are doing that? Because we need the best quality, best speed, best safety. Along with that, when we are investing this kind of money, because with project make it successful, and we need a good tool, because we can't go back to the old age what we are following it. So I personally feel, I'm quite convinced, as you rightly asked, whether it is expenditure. So I will say this is an investment which will only give returns, I'm saying, because it's not going to be because expenditure item on our balance sheet at all.
Can you give me like a number that, what kind of savings has adopting BIM helped, can help you incur in your projects? Can we like have estimate here?
To be very frank, it will be difficult for me to tell here, because each project to project is changes, because the dynamics of projects, as I told, because whether it is high rise, whether it is commercial, whether it is residential, because each project has their own challenges. So based on that, because we need to really, but I have seen somebody who has shown me the presentation where, because before start of the project, kind of reduction they have shown in terms of the consumption of the steel, consumption of the concrete, or even wastage which they would have done in terms of the doors and windows or anything for that matter. It can go to the minutest level, because beyond, it's a pleasure. I mean, because I was thrilled to go through this presentation as a contractor, and I've been pushing out people. I said, don't waste time, whether it is through Harsh, through it is XYG, whoever. I mean, at the end of the day, because it's a software, it's a tool. Whoever gives the best service, I think we must go for it.
Yes. So you're saying that while cost to adopt it could be a challenge, but you look at it more as an investment and not an expenditure, because there are returns attached to it.
Certainly, because as we are talking, time is money, because I'm again repeating, because a lot of time will be saved in terms of which we keep blaming each other. No, this should have come, that should have come. And we have a tendency in normal projects, we have an Indian tendency that before even, because the drawings are there, because we break the ground. Before drawings comes, because whatever because tidbits come, we start because we're doing the concreting of the foundation, and because then project starts. Because we have to change. That's what we have been telling clients. It suits me to come and break the ground and start the work, but let's invest our time into the initial good working, whereby because you are clear, I am clear, architect is clear, all the agencies who are involved, they all are clear. There is a budget which is frozen. So everybody is working towards the goal, which is a target. So no blame game.
Yes. So with that, I also come to, Mr. Girish Dravid. I know that you have been having your hands on BIM for a while now on this technology. You have been incorporating it in your project. As a structural engineer, does BIM improve outcomes required of your task of assuring the sturdiness of the structure? And why would you urge structural engineers to opt for this technology?
Well, first and foremost, the idea behind BIM is collaboration and coordination. And for a structural engineer and the fellow engineering consultants like MEP and Facade and all other engineers, that coordination and collaboration is very, very important with the architectural theme. And if I have the information right in front of me, which is already partly coordinated or fully coordinated, it becomes easy for me to evolve a suitable, the most appropriate structural system and convince the client that this is the best. Secondly, I will come to the aspect of cost. I mean, at my level, in my office, using BIM, maybe it can be any software in BIM, but using BIM, I'm saving a lot of manpower cost. For example, if I'm making a model in BIM, my QS manpower reduces to 30%, because I'm no more feeding LBD and then summing the things and making errors, redoing it. all that is gone. Everything is available at a click. So I can use my QS people's time more efficiently by asking them to to check, do various alterations in terms of optimization by using different specifications, see the cost on that model itself. So they are not working on any other platform. They are not working on Excel or any other spreadsheet. They are working in that model itself. The same model which is being used by my draftsmen, which is being used by my engineers, and which has come from architects and other MEP consultants. So there is no discrepancy in whatever we are doing, and we have experience as a structural engineer. We have experienced a lot of benefits following this. Secondly, I want to add something to what Mahesh Mudra said. Not only our clients are in a hurry to start foundation work before the design, they also constantly keep changing the designs. I mean, in a lifespan, in a construction period of, let's say, 3 years, the average changes that happen in a building are more than 12 in my experience. So we are actually designing 12 buildings in 3 years. Ultimately, only one gets built. But all these changes doing is very, very easy on BIM because we instantly know the effects. We can communicate to the client that last mile, that connectivity that Harsh was talking in a different sense. I can communicate with the client and say, if you are going to change this, these are the implications. And this we have already benefited from this.
Right, right. I think there would be more that I would want to, elaborate on you on how BIM is benefits on the site, but I will come back to that in my further questions. I will go next to the architect with us on this panel, Mr. Bhatt. Are clients happy to be looking at their projects on BIM platform? If you could just, share from your experience, and how do you use BIM in your interactions with your clients and other collaborators?
So hi, Shreyal. Thanks for having me on the panel. So clients, yes, definitely these days insist quite a lot of them actually insist that the entire designs and the deliverables have to be on BIM. But I must tell you that some of them don't realize and say that probably unknowingly or really not knowing what to do with the model eventually, because quite a lot of them still perceive it as a tool to avoid clashes and get a slightly easier, smoother work at site. And there are the others, there are the clients as well who understand, who've been using this more effectively, who actually take it to another level where they use the model post occupation to use it for modeling, for maintenance, for facility management and things like that. Right. So there's a completely different purpose of it, and in fact that's precisely why BIM is also sometimes referred to as building information management and not just modeling, right? So because it's all about managing the information that's there. It's a huge amount of information that's there in that model. We use BIM. One is if a client insists, and probably to kind of give the information to them in BIM. But I guess as Girish was mentioning, I think there's a lot to save as well. I mean, in a competitive market like this today, where the costs are going up but the fees are going down, you don't have a choice but to get into ways of automating things, right? So, Harsh was mentioning about the content library. And content library, I'm telling you, is not just limited to being able to just plonk in a door from one side and putting it, or a window from one side and putting it into the model. But there's a lot more. I mean, for example, we're doing data centers, and you are in a position to just pick up a model of a transformer, for example, or an AHU from a specific manufacturer, put it in place, and you really know whether that fits in or not, right? So which would have otherwise in a regular scenario required a day for you to reach out to, let's say, a train guy, tell him, ask him for the information, then somebody reaches out to their US office and then they get back the information, and I think you've lost a day or two. So I guess there's a substantial amount of time that you save on the project because of this. Second, and the last thing I wanted to add is that when you're interacting with the clients, there used to be a time when we would use SketchUp, Harsh, So yeah, so kind of to be able to show a design to a client at a conceptual stage, beyond which it used to be always in 2D. Today we're using the BIM models to kind of discuss designs at a later date with the clients as well. And I have seen quite a lot of situations where we've been able to conclude an issue in a few minutes, which would have otherwise taken a physical meeting at site. So yeah, so there's a lot to gain out of BIM. That's the way forward.
So while I think among the entire set of panel, we have discussed a set of challenges as well as a lot of benefits have been highlighted. Yet we have seen that in the industry, not everybody has been, still reached the level of adopting BIM. I'm sure even the panelists would agree with me from that. Even you all must have had an experience where one of the stakeholders are still not, a BIM user, and you would probably in the project vouch or support for BIM. I think this would be a good chance for me for again launch one more poll, because it was good to know that we've got a perfect mix of attendees where we have all stakeholders watching us. So I think also to know a little bit more from our attendees, that why is there an hesitance to adopting constructive in addition to everything that we've just discussed, just to know where the majority reason falls. Is it because it does not have interoperability? Is it too expensive? We did mention cost in one aspect. Or do clients always have their own systems? Or is there lack of training, as we mentioned? Mr. Parikh, what do you think from the feedback that you get from your clients and everything? Where do you think we would see our attendees bending more?
I think adoption initially, I would say it was a mindset, because change is always difficult. But I think everybody agreed in the panel that it is the future. So I think that's what everybody has started. Now, I think question of the adoption, it's only about, I would say, at the project level, if the clear guidelines of BIM or the constructability are clearly defined, I'm sure everybody will be able to implement it, because sometimes it becomes a question of choice. Here, we don't think so. If the mandates are being given, then it'll not be a choice. It'll be the need or requirement of the project. I think everybody understands the essence of it. Just a matter of push and mindset.
Yeah, and I think from the poll result, we are also seeing that there is a lot of votes that's gone to lack of training. So definitely, maybe that is an area that we want to look at going forward as an industry at every level. Where how training can be adopted to increase the adoption of BIM.
I would say, Shal, here sometimes the version of BIM or as a process are very differently articulated by different people, and there is no regulatory consensus which clearly defines that what comes BIM at level 1, level 2, level 3. Because of that, everybody expects that some miracle is going to happen by building this virtual model or BIM model, and that is where the expectation mismatch is disappoints a lot of people. And that's where they say, hey, we were expecting that we will probably reach to moon, and it is a lot of effort to reach even to take off. And so I think it is very, very important that clarity and understanding about what it is and at what level what needs to be delivered. If that becomes a little more clearer, and I think nowadays a lot of exercises like we are talking today, things have come up. So I'm sure it will grow. Once that understanding grows in everybody's mind, then everybody will be aware that what training will be required. Otherwise, everybody says, give me the full BIM training in 5 days. Sachin can add full BIM training in 5 days. I find sometimes very difficult to answer.
So probably you are seeing that as a gap. And I see Mr. Dravid and Mr. Bhatt want to add in here. So yes, go for it.
Yeah, just one liner. I mean, see, in my office, I'll give you an example that in my office, we handle average 200 projects at any given time. We have 3 offices and we handle more than that, those many projects. But the number of projects on which the BIM is being used are not even 10%. Whereas I want to tell the audience who have voted for lack of training as not the cause for adoption. Almost all my draftsmen are trained in Revit, but they're idle because there is no demand for BIM, you know. So unless the client imposes that there has to be a BIM on this project, we are not going to work on those projects on BIM. Simple. So only training is not the answer for a spread of BIM.
Absolutely. I wanted to add there. So I think the point is, so we've been training ourselves for the last, Harsh knows, we've been training ourselves for the last 8 years. All right, so finally we've gotten there. But the point is, I'll tell you what, the thing is, the biggest resistance comes from us, from people at the senior level. I think we find it difficult to accept or learn, adopt a new tool, a new way of working. And this was a situation way back 20 years ago when I was working elsewhere, and we had I was doing my internship 25 years ago, and that we had a firm which used to not work on AutoCAD, used to hand draft things, and they found it extremely difficult to move to AutoCAD, to computer-aided design, right? So, and today we are seeing this resistance in people adopting BIM, and I think the point is that what happens more often than not is that you get a call from a client who's restless, who says that, hell, I don't care, I need the set of drawings to be issued day after tomorrow or in 15 days. And the first thing that we do is to say, okay, guys, drop it. Let's go ahead and get it done. All right. And the easiest way to do it is the language that you know. Right. So, and then everything moves to AutoCAD. Now, the thing is, I think that's something that needs to change, because if we were aware of what should be the right answer, I think we would have been able to respond to the client a little better, rather than just accept saying that maybe, saying that AutoCAD is the way out. I think we would have been able to kind of communicate and respond to that situation better had we known the nuances of what BIM actually involves, right? So I think that's where the training bit comes in, and I think if there was an attempt to look at training the senior level to be able to just read drawings, understand basics about it, be able to anticipate what the involvement is, and today, I mean, we're interviewing kids, and kids are completely aware about Revit. I mean, you can see fantastic 3D animation views being rendered by them as a part of their portfolio, which is all out of BIM. Yeah. So yeah, so that's where I would say the gap is.
Yes, and while you touch upon how BIM can benefit on the design desk as well, and like the panel has discussed, that builders and contractors do face challenge of wastages on site, which they want to eradicate. Also, while structural engineers are doing engineering analysis and design, there is much more that BIM can help them achieve. So, like the panel is agreeing that maybe training, creating awareness, all of that could kind of help. And also, it's not just training, but it's also where we see clients using different platforms, and hence I think there is a need for all stakeholders at the senior management level also to come together. So I think that is a point noted. Also, Mr. Butt, coming back to you, that how can the person on site leverage the information that is coming from the design onto the site? So how much of the features of constructible BIM do you really use at present?
So I'll tell you, it's a mixed bag. We've had an experience very recently where we developed the entire set of drawings and the entire model in BIM, because that was a directive from the client, and it was a multinational client, and they were not too much aware about the Indian ways of working. So we were asked to do the entire model in BIM. The entire set was submitted to the GCs, the vendors, to quote, and I'm telling you, it was a complete failure. They were not able to get quotations, because not everybody was aware of how to read the model and how to use it to generate costs out of it, because it was supposed to be a lump sum contract that was supposed to be issued. And then the whole thing went back. We were told, okay, unfortunately, you'll have to issue AutoCAD drawings. We said, boss, it's not as simple as just going back and saying that, okay, I convert a RBD file into a .dwg format and issue it, right? But then finally, it had to be done because you didn't have a way. It was a deadlock. So we had to redo it. There was a set of BOQs that had to get prepared, and then it went back to the regular ways of working. So, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't think there's a way to escape it, because this is a part of the evolution process. We are somewhere in the middle, and I'm sure we're going to come out of it. And having said that, we have seen sites where it is used, and people are actually using it extremely effectively, because you are in a position to now visualize the whole space in 3D. So you're not looking at a 2D drawing and assuming what's happening, what is the work of the other service provider that's going to come above or below you. You can actually visualize what the other person is going to do over and after your work is completed as well. And I think that's probably giving a lot more valuable information to a guy who's going to construct it at site. So it's being used extremely effectively. And I think the last bit is to be able to convert, Harsh was talking about this, using it to convert, the finally built product into as-built drawings. I think that's going to be a space where I think the whole industry is going to gain substantially, because our as-built drawings suck today. And I think if we are talking about the construction industry being one of the largest waste producers, going forward, I think considering the life of a project being 50 years, repurposing buildings are going to be the in thing. Businesses are dynamic, they're changing so rapidly. Today, a mall is being converted into an office, an office being converted into a residence, and things like that, right? And for you to be able to do that without having to break down that building is to have very good as-built drawings. Today, half the thing that we generate as garbage or scrap it is because of the fact that we don't understand what's gone above it. So I think that's a huge area of value add that that BIM will get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harsh.
Yes, Mr. Patil.
Just a quick
Yes, Mr.
addition. Yes, can you hear me? I believe. So just
Yes,
adding to what Sachin mentioned, the one element we need to see, everybody in this panel, and I think Sachin and Girish, they come from this engineering design drawing space. I call them more of white collars. But very, very important, look at the distribution of cost of a project. Because if we talk about the different activities, you can really say design and detailing is one aspect, and then probably I would call it construction, fabrication, procurement, like logistics. That is almost like 90% of your cost of your project. If Girish says it is of use, Sachin says it is of use, Mr. Pitawala and Mr. Mudda agrees that it is the way forward, we need to understand if the gain is huge at the design and detailing stage, if it can be implemented with patience and with the right methods in the construction time, how much wastage, how much efficiency can be gained with. And as built is the key, because today, like contractors or like large contract companies, they say, why do we need to build the whole model again? So I think we are just good with the engineering BIM models. Those are not good to produce my good for construction drawing. So I think that is a big gap. That can be connected, and if we are delivering as-built models, I'm sure everybody will be happy to use it. It is a very small cost that design and detail. If we are having a wastage of 5 to 7%, I'm just trying to be very polite by saying 5 to 7%. But of a 100 crore project, if I say 7% is 7 crore, and if we are able to save from that 7 crore to, let's say, 30%, 40% of our wastage, it's a huge saving. And when we're talking about millions of square feet of our projects are coming nowadays, it's a lot of value add. So it's not about design and engineers, architects and engineers. I think the value chain needs to be understood well by the developers and the contractors precisely why it is needed. Sorry for the long answer. It was needed.
Yeah.
No, but since we have a developer and a contractor with us on the panel, Mr. Pitawala and Mr. Mudda, how would, if you would want to add something to the point that Mr. Parekh just made?
As far as the COVID situation is concerned, this is the right time that India should get digitalized. As our Prime Minister has already said that we have to become Atmanirbhar. So we'll have to be very strong on these points and we have to use BIM very effectively. I can only say one thing as a last remark of mine, closing remark. That is, BIM is the tomorrow. That's all I can say.
BIM is the tomorrow, and interesting note with which Mr. Pitawala concludes. Also, Mr. Mudda, if I come to you, like Mr. Pitawala mentioned, especially during the pandemic times, the correct adoption of such modern construction technology can greatly aid industry stakeholders. So, do you see an increase in the demand, for adoption of BIM, even from the developers and the contractors side?
Sure. Which I have been telling all along that whether pandemic or no pandemic, I mean, this is the need of the hour now. And I'll share you a very classic example which I wanted to share. Because just almost 6 months, a contractor, which is a contracting company of 30 years, his son goes abroad, studies, and come back. He's a 30-year-old boy. And he's been implementing in his own organization the job which has been awarded to them by the government. He's gone and done complete study because involving the BIM and whole team, their process, and come out with the savings and shared with the government authorities and earned the good brownie points for him, and then that kind of reputation, because some contractor is coming and giving that kind of value addition to the government too. And he's been following it up with me, and he shared that whole presentation. So what we saw just now, lack of training, is that's the real answer here. We need to have that kind of awareness with this. As because a 30-year-old boy, because a 30-year-old company, father is now saying, okay, my son is running. But son is saying that because I don't want to run the business the way my father was running. I want to use the BIM. I want to use the Revit. I want to use the technology. Because he's gone and studied abroad and seen the advantages of that. They have visited the sites and seen the real, because inputs what they get in terms of the output. So I think name of the game is because we all need to mentally get prepared, get convinced ourselves, and because being into this industry, we all have to work together to see that how we can really use this effectively. I mean, that is the most key, success will be there. And I'm sure because it's going to add value only.
There's been such a positive discussion because I see all the stakeholders somewhere. One thing that has been in common is that we are agreeing that we need to adopt BIM. And I'm really going to look forward to the transformation that is going to come about in the real estate sector once we see this adoption happening. I'll also take a question very quickly with Mr. Dravid related to, the on-site benefits, which I wanted to know from him, though we are kind of running out of time, but I'll take this one quickly. How does the supervisor utilize the reports generated by BIM to bring an update for all at site on board? So how does this process work at the site? If you could, just give us some insights from your experience.
Yeah, I can see I am a consultant, work in office, but on some of the projects that I use BIM on site and effectively, I have seen that the people there, the people working on site, they are also trained to use BIM. And I have often seen in the beginning, there used to be RFIs, that is request for information, notes. Give me this section, give me that section, more clarification. So we started answering them that you have BIM, you have Revit model, you have to just do this and you will get that section. Slowly and slowly, such questions started, they stopped because they themselves started taking those sections and understanding the arrangement, arrangement, structural arrangement, how the connection is done and all that. So there was a phenomenal change in their attitude. Instead of coming back to us with frivolous questions, their questions have now gone matured. I mean, there are different kind of questions which we are happy to answer, not only give this section and give that section. That is one thing. Secondly, there have been very good use of the model, 3D model by the site engineers in terms of management. Now they can actually select a specific area to be concreted, let's say tomorrow, and quickly they understand what is the quantity that they have to order from RMC, or they can reduce the area, they can increase the area. You know, that construction joint aspect, they can decide for themselves because there is a a limitation on how much they can concrete per day. They can plan very nicely how many columns they can cast, then how much shuttering they can do. All this aspect has now, these aspects have gone to the lower rungs of the supervisory staff, and I'm happy about that. Although I'm not directly involved, but I can see that if these people can start using BIM like this, there will be a great revolution, and then a lot of time will be saved, a lot of friction between consultants and contractors will vanish because it's already there. We don't have to do anything else. It's already there.
Sure. And Mr. Parikh, just concluding this entire discussion with a last view from you. Right now, considering that, metro projects and expressway projects are adopting BIM during its tender process, BIM too has become a practice by need and not just by choice. So is it likely to be a standard in project contracts in times to come? What is your expectation here?
That's a very great example. I think metros are every second metro now coming with the BIM mandates that all their project needs to be delivered on BIM process. Where it is heading towards. Most of the large organizations and operators, they have understood one fact, that if we really want to gauge the value, like how do we measure the success of BIM implementation, that how much cost it is saving. So the BIM or engineering processes, they are trying to link with the business processes. So the engineering processes will be linking to the business processes. So I say BIM is a process and ERP is a process. How do we link BIM with ERP? So the best of the engineering has been done, how it is impacting my cost, like in terms of labor, material, equipment, because that is what everybody does on day-to-day basis. And if the project is going on a fast track and all, so this is going to be moving forward on that direction. That single source of truth, that how the data can be utilized, because now everybody is talking about the power of the data and how we can reuse that data. So tomorrow, if I'm going to bid for a project, why can't I leverage my experience of my past projects and basically said that if I quoted for, let us say, $100,000 for that project, if I'm bidding the same now, what was my experiences and can I be better in my bids and all. So technology is going to help all these processes to ultimately deliver the result in terms of money. So everybody is just looking at two things, time and money. If we can save the money towards the end, every process is automatically going to be adopted. So that is where it is moving forward.
So with that, I think we conclude on a very optimistic note. We've had a lot of questions and comments coming in, which I have been reading as we're discussing. While unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to take all the questions, but the industry has been, on the training aspect, we've also received comments where they're saying that maybe engineering institute should incorporate as part of, their syllabus and trainings a lot more on BIM. So I think that is some very good thought and inputs also coming in from our attendees. Let me see if we can try and take at least one question. There's one question that why in India there are no MEP modeling done in a large scale of real estate projects. I think I would take this one question to close this. Would anybody from the panel want to respond to this? That why in India there are no MEP modeling done in a large scale?
So I think it's not a yes or a no. I think there are a lot of projects where very detailed MEP models are being created to the level where they're actually showing joints and bolts connecting T joints, junctions being shown on the piping as well. So I think it's probably not completely true. So I guess if somebody is not being able to do that, it's either because the client has not requested them for an LOD 350 or a 300. Maybe they're only doing it at a schematic level where it's only LOD 200 or something like that, or maybe it's a wrong project to look at.
Yes, Mr. Parik. Very quickly to sum this up. Yes.
I would agree with what Sachin said, that most of the places it has not been implemented because people have not requested for it. And even in the projects where it is requested on a very selective basis, that only the serviceable items needs to be modeled at LOD 400 plus or 350 plus. Rest of the items we don't need to. So if we are really becoming selective in our approach, that I was talking, I think yesterday about the same, that we can't like pick and choose that this is a good BIM, this is a bad BIM. Processes, the better the information, more the information, it is going to help ultimately in construction and operation and maintenance. So I think all elements are important, needs to be driven towards the as-built, not anything this is needed, this is not.
Yes, so with that, I bring this discussion to an end. I would like to thank all our panelists for joining us. I think we've had such a great mix of panelists, literally all stakeholders coming to board. So I think all perceptions, all challenges, wherever solutions could come in, it's been a perfect mix of a discussion. Thank you so much for all your time. I'm sure this is something that's been very valuable for our attendees. And our webinars are also available on our website, constructionworld.in. So if you want to also share this with somebody who it would be available on our website. So I will be seeing you all soon with the many more webinars that we have lined up in the coming days, in the coming weeks, and the coming months. Till then, take care, stay safe, and I will see you all soon. Once again, thank you, Mr. Sachin Bhatt, Mr. Mahesh Mudha, Mr. Cyrus Pitawala, Mr. Girish Dravid, and Mr. Harsh Parekh. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great evening.